What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Independence Day: Resurgence. When the first trailer dropped for this movie, I was like, that looks kinda shitty, but the more trailers and footage that were released, I was like, okay, I'm kinda warming up to it. Well, my first instinct was the correct one. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, so let's dive into my review of Independence Day: Resurgence. Okay, so Independence Day: Resurgence is a sci-fi disaster film directed by Roland Emmerich and is the sequel to the highly successful 1996 film Independence Day. In the original Independence Day, the plot is basically that an unknown alien force arrives on Earth and tries to destroy it, and we the humans band together to fight them off. And that's basically the plot in Independence Day: Resurgence too. It's been 20 years since the original alien attack on Earth, and once again the events take place over a 2 to 3 day span, with the big fighting taking place on July 4th or Independence Day, or else the movie wouldn't be called Independence Day, I guess, I don't know. And that's really all you need to know about the plot. The aliens come back and we try to fight them off, but this time their ships are bigger, they're better organized, and just stronger. Well, because it's not called a sequel for nothing. We've used some of their technology from ships and weaponry they left behind from the battle 20 years ago to advance our own military and scientific interests. So while the film is current day, humans are way more advanced because obviously they've been forced to adapt to alien invasions, and we had some advanced alien technology dropped right on our doorstep that we in turn were like, hey, we can definitely use this if anyone ever decides to come back. Well, obviously those same aliens come back, and this time they really mean business. They were just like, we were messing around before, but this time our ship is bigger, we're gonna fly it right over the Atlantic Ocean and drill to the planet's core and destroy it. And that's basically the whole plot. It's basically just the first movie, kind of, but a little bit bigger, I guess. Okay, so personally, I really hated this movie, and it was probably the worst movie I've seen in theaters this year. It's right up there with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Out of the Shadows. And let's set the record straight right away. I liked the first Independence Day film that was released back in 1996. I think for the time, it had good special effects, it had mostly good acting, a good story, and it was first and foremost an entertaining and fun sci-fi film. But Independence Day: Resurgence doesn't have any of its predecessor's charm, and it doesn't execute the same formula nearly as effectively. The dialogue and acting in this film is absolutely horrendous. Some of the things the characters say had me laughing because it just felt so unnatural and just ridiculous. And that's not something you want from this kind of movie because it has a mostly serious tone with some humor sprinkled in every now and then. But the serious moments were almost always ruined by one of the actors delivering a line that was either really corny or just really bland. But it wasn't always the script's fault because the acting in this film was pretty awful too. There was only one person in this film who I thought acted their role well, and that was Micah Monroe in the role of Patricia Whitmore, daughter of former President Whitmore. Everybody else though was just bad in this film. The acting felt so stale and cheesy that I was laughing at how awkward some of the scenes felt. And I know some of you are gonna say, Will, Jeff Goldblum is a really good actor and I bet he was really good here. And my response to that would be, yes, he is a very good actor, but no, in this movie he's not a very good actor. Now you could argue that maybe this is the script's fault, but regardless of the reasoning, Jeff Goldblum does not shine in this movie. My two friends I went to this movie with though really like Jeff Goldblum, but that's probably because one of them is an Independence Day fanboy and loves anything the franchise does, and the other one, a girl, likes older men and has the hots for Jeff Goldblum. So if you find yourself in either of those two categories, you'll probably like Jeff Goldblum here, but if not, I'd be willing to bet that you'll walk out of the theater unimpressed with his work in this one. The acting performances by Liam Hemsworth and newcomer Jesse Usher were both really flat too. I feel like Liam Hemsworth is a good actor, but this movie really is not going to do his career any favors because his character is just really boring and not particularly well acted. He's pretty much the same supporting character that you see in every sci-fi action film, but the problem here is that he doesn't really have anything interesting about him that makes you want to emotionally invest in his character. And it's the same with Jesse Usher, who plays Will Smith's son. He's acted just as poorly, and like I said, the script doesn't do these actors any favors, but none of these actors really do a good enough job to raise the level of the script either. There's sort of like a beef between Jesse Usher and Liam Hemsworth's characters, but they really don't explain why very well. You just have to sort of go along with it, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna need more of an explanation of why these two hate each other because I just don't really understand the friction. There's also a few of the other actors from the original Independence Day film besides Jeff Goldblum that return, but they just don't seem as awesome as they did the first time around. Granted, I was only 5 when the first Independence Day came out, so maybe that's why I liked them, but this time around they're just like everyone else. They're either over the top and silly or boring and not compelling at all as a character. I will say though that this movie definitely needed Will Smith's charm and charisma because to me his presence was sorely missed. It sucks too because they kind of just gloss over why he's not in it. They're just like, yeah, he died. Moving on. Okay, so story-wise, this movie is a mess. Its runtime is around 2 hours right on the dot, and this would be fine if the movie didn't jump around so much. It jumps around to so many different characters and their perspectives and stories, but in the end, this results in a very fractured whole that doesn't allow for enough time to connect with any one character. There's so much jumping around that I didn't hardly know any of these characters' names because you get so little time with each one individually that you don't get a chance to know and understand that specific character. You jump from here to there to here to there, and I just got frustrated because I was like, man, I was just starting to become invested in that storyline, and now you pull me away and cut to something else. There's just too many characters that you spend time with, and some of them provide such little impact on the story that it ultimately feels like a waste of time. Once you get out of this movie, I'd be willing to bet, like me, you'll probably not remember like any of the characters' names, which is not a sign of a good movie. And as for the action, well, it's pretty good, but sometimes the pacing of it is a bit weird. What I mean by that is that the fight scenes are edited in a way that feels erratic because they cut back and forth to a ton of different perspectives of the same fight, and then characters make progress that you didn't get to see, so you won't understand it. It's just confusing as a viewer, and you're probably going to be frustrated with it. I thought the CGI of the battle scenes mostly looked pretty good though, with the aliens themselves looking kinda not so great. The ships and the weaponry all look great though. One last thing I want to mention is that some scenes of this movie are going to leave you scratching your head logic-wise. And some of you might think, Will, it's a sci-fi movie and aliens just invaded Earth. Suspend your disbelief. But my problem is mostly with the logic and decision-making skills of our characters because they seem pretty aloof to the situation and incompetent in their decision-making skills. And this is the best we Earthlings have to offer, huh? Yeah, we're doomed. There's one scene in the first hour or so where the aliens arrive and wreck shit, and you're just like, well, okay, that was bad and everyone's dead. But the characters never truly react to this at all. They act like, man, Earth's inhabitants are still living strong and we have to save them all. But in reality, most of them are dead and they never really acknowledge this in a significant way. This is a mass extinction event and no one really bats an eye, and I guess you could argue that's because of the events in the first one, but still, this event was catastrophic and it was just sort of brushed over. Overall though, this movie was a huge disappointment. I did think the CGI was mostly good and the fight scenes were entertaining, but sadly the dialogue and acting were horrendous, the story jumped around a lot and was dissatisfying, the pacing was a mess, and the characters were bland and boring. I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10 and say that you should save your hard-earned money and not go see this one in theaters. So did you guys see Independence Day Resurgence yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether you're excited to see this film or not. And as always, if you liked this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for future content like this. That's all for now. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.